Hey, this is Billy from Hey Billy.
Hi everyone. So I guess I will introduce myself. Sorry. You can just continue on. Yeah. So I am Billy's friend, and I also help a lot with like the social media content and also for future like graphics and whatnot as well.
All right, so going in for today, but yeah, we've been a little bit about us. I met her during college. She's graduated already, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She graduated two years ago.
Yeah, December 2018.
Yeah, so it's been a good ride. But me and her actually majored I'm still majoring. I haven't graduated yet, but we're the same major and almost same minor, but I dropped that. So we've just working together. We do a lot of social media, so I think it'd be fun. And she's one of my biggest supporters. So we're here today. So I know that when we started this blog, I specifically did not want to talk a lot about supernatural and paranormal things, very spiritual things, like ghost stories and stuff. Like, that's not something big I wanted to go into just because there's a lot of like controversy when it comes to that. But I think it'd be fun for this one. So for our first podcast again, it'll be Halloween themed. We're talking about some of my scary stories that I've experienced, and telling some from like our elders, like Yadaneng or Yalunjua, that our elders used to tell us. So going to like shaman stuff, I think something good to start off at is sleep paralysis, honestly. Do you know what sleep paralysis is? Like, have you ever experienced sleep paralysis?
No, I don't think I've experienced sleep paralysis. Maybe I have, but I also feel like sometimes I'm just too lazy, and then I was like, "Kalia, la taka pai pusa." So I don't know.
Literally, that is me though. But okay, so sleep paralysis. I think in the Hmong culture in general, like and like sleep paralysis, it's such a like big and a big topic. Like you learn about sleep paralysis as a young child. Like our parents talk about it a lot and everything. But I'll go into a little bit of like when I first starting to experience sleep paralysis, and it was actually sleep paralysis one of the first things that I experienced or when I was becoming a shaman. You're going through the illnesses, the chosen, I don't know, the process or something like that, and you experience a lot of different things, right? Illnesses and sleep paralysis. So I would say my first like sleep paralysis and like big paranormal like experience. I don't know if it's truly paranormal, but this is what I experienced. So for anyone who's trying to try to make me prove things, I don't care. I'm not going to, because it's just what I went through. So this was in middle school. This was in middle school. I would say, if I can recall, sixth grade, I believe, sixth or seventh grade, and at this time, and life was a little difficult this time. My parents were going through a divorce. My dad wasn't with us anymore. And it was just the family. And I had a room and I shared it with my older brother. And we both slept on the same queen size bed. I don't miss that. And I remember everything was normal that night. Everything was fine. I had a dream that I was at my grandma's house, actually, my grandparents' house, my Netayazi's house. And I was outside, and I was playing with a 2x4. And I had it in my left hand, and I would balance it. Like it would be standing up, and I would balance it, and I would let it fall slowly into my right hand, and I'd catch it. And then I would like bounce back up, balance it, and then catch it again. And I kept letting it fall, and then after like 3-4 times of doing this, in the dream, and I remember it falling, and it like slowed down. It was like slow motion, like Matrix stuff. And I saw the 2x4 falling slowly, and I'm like, holy shit! Like what the heck is like happening in my dream? And then when it hit my hand, like you can hear the echo of like the like that. I don't know how to explain it, but there's that sound. And I remember in the dream, I was like paralyzed in the dream, as if like nothing in the dream I couldn't move in the dream. And then I saw like these like black figures. There was like at least 3 of them, and they came out and they started like out of nowhere, and they started circling me. And at that moment, I knew it was a dream. For some reason, I figured out that it was a dream, and I'm like, okay, I just need to wake up. And my first time dealing with sleep paralysis. So I woke up in real life, and I was paralyzed. And I remember laying there, sleeping on my back, and I was laying there staring at the ceiling, and it was kind of dark, but in the room there's a window, and like that night there's like on the street there's the street lights, and you can kind of see the oranges glow from the street light, but it's still hard to like kind of see things. It's kind of dark, but go to Taiwan, so we always have some lights in the room and stuff too. That was scaredy cat. And I looked up like at the ceiling. I'm laying there and I see like this like I would say like very dark mass. It did take kind of the like if you were to look at the form looked like a man or something. And it kind of floated up from at the end of the bed with my feet. It's like at the end of the bed, and it came up over me. And it was just floating there. And I remember looking at it and like being like scared as hell. Like I'm like breathing really hard, and I'm like looking at my brother. I'm like, oh my God, wake up. Like holy shit, what's happening? And I was so scared. And then I told myself, go to sleep. So I closed my eyes. And when I closed my eyes, I closed really hard. For some reason, I'd be back in the dream. And then those things were still circling me. And so I opened my eyes, and then I'd be back, but I was still experiencing sleep paralysis. And then this thing, like, it reached out its arms. And I remember specifically, like, it started pushing me into the bed. And this is back in the early 2000s. And so we had, like, the spring beds and everything. And I remember, like, being like the pressure was so hard on me that you can literally hear and feel the springs like coming together. Like I'm being pushed in, and like you can feel that. And I'm here like freaking out. Like I'm like 6th, 7th grade. I'm like gonna cry, and I'm just like, holy crap! Like what is happening? It's my first time too. So then I think my brother woke up from hearing me like during sleep paralysis. If you have experienced sleep paralysis, you know what it is. In your head and in your body, you scream like so loud, but in real life, all you hear is like that. And so like that's all you're getting from me. All you're hearing is like that. And I'm like, but for you, I'm like, oh my fucking God, like help and everything. I think because of the pressure, me being pressed so hard into the bed, like I think my brother he felt it. I remember he woke up and he like hit me, and I was like, kind of spring out, but it wasn't like, super exaggerated spring. Like I like, boom, and my brother can feel it. And he's like, what happened? I look at him and I'm like, I think I just got sad, and I think I just like experienced something paranormal. But I was so exhausted from their deal that I like knocked out right after that. And my brother actually ended up staying up till like 6 a.m. because he got really scared. And so I felt bad because the next day we had to go to school, and he was tired as hell. And I'm like, yeah, I am so sorry. We had to catch the bus and shit too. And yeah, so that was like my first time experiencing sleep paralysis for me. And I think it was pretty scary, and I think it was a good experience too, because after that, like I experienced tons more after that. But that was the most like memorable one for me, just because it's like your first time experiencing that, and like, that was the first time where I experienced something I would say that's like in my life, like truly paranormal affecting me. And I didn't really tell anyone when it first happened, only my brother and like some of my siblings and my family, because even my mom didn't actually believe me. My family, we're not super spiritual. We come from a very logical, very assimilated family. So like Hmong spirituality was never big in the family. So it was hard for us to understand that. And then, but it was good. It was good to go through that, I would say, because now like having been a shaman for like 10 years and everything, I have helped a lot of people when it comes to like sleep paralysis, and I have done my fair share of throwing hands, man. Like I have done it with ghosts, like through hands. I have literally had to like slap some before. It's been there, I've been Paul like many times too. Like, you don't win every battle, but it helped. And I think when it comes to talking about like people I've worked with and like their experience, like sleep paralysis, like in a year, I do a lot of like, there's a lot of cases in which I like help on with sleep paralysis. And most times they're not that scary, actually. Most times I just do like a cleansing or a blessing, and it goes away. But you did hear a lot of scary stories. Like I've heard stories of people getting sat on where like the entity will show up as a dog and come like lick their face. One person I've helped, that individual like got suffocated by a pillow. Like the entity like took the pillow from under their head and like suffocated them. Like those are very rare and extreme cases. And in my experience and expertise, like for me, it's rare, and it's kind of rare facing like cases that are that severe. Most of them is just typical sleep paralysis, and then you do a little onang or ceremony, and then it goes away. But I think one story I can clearly remember is I had helped a certain individual, and I'm not going to hold any names or even like different pronouns, just so we can keep everyone's identity hidden. But I remember helping this one individual one time, and they were going through sleep paralysis that I would say was normal. Not normal, typical. It was typical. It wasn't like too scary or too bad. But the thing that I hate about it is that with this certain case, I remember that the night before, I didn't even know they were gonna call me, right? We never know. We never really know who's gonna call. It's not like a medical system where people can just hit us up. Like people will have to find my cell phone. It's all word to mouth, mouth to mouth. So I remember that night, and then it was probably I would say about 3 a.m. I remember hearing my door, the room I sleep in. I don't share a room anymore with my brother, but I always leave my door locked, and I hear they were like like someone was shaking it, and I woke up and I was like, what the heck? It's like 3, 4 in the morning right now, and I was like, Gunji, I look at my phone and I'm like, who's trying to get at my door? So then all of a sudden I hear the lock. At this time, you hear the lock, and I looked at the door, and then right before I was gonna sit up in bed, I just boom, like I was paralyzed, and I was just like, ah, shit, this is happening again. And the thing is, like, I've dealt with this so much, where like in a way, like I don't get too scared going through this, but what was scary for me was that what was happening to me was already happening before I was even in sleep paralysis. Like I woke up, like I already like turned. I was still laying down, obviously, and I grabbed my phone and go to phone. Like I was moving around, and the moment I was going to draw my attention and like kind of take care of the problem, like see and analyze like what's happening, then I was frozen. Like I was laying there, and I was frozen on my side, on my left side. So I'm laying on my left side, and so when Hmong people say that you can only get sleep paralysis on your back, lie. So yeah, I'm like on my left side, and the door opens, right? The new law, the but at this time, and if y'all know those yellow Christmas lights that we hang up on a tree, it's kind of cute, has like yellowish glow, golden glow to it, and people put in the room all the time. Yeah, I'm typical. I have that too. So I sleep with that a lot actually. Just because sometimes I don't not more about to'i. Yeah, to'i I sleep with that a lot. Just because when you experience a lot of things, it's nice to have light. Makes you feel more safe. So then I can still kind of see, and look, don't care, and then in comes like, I would say, usually it was like a man. It was like a man, but the thing is like it was hard to kind of tell. Like their ethnic background was kind of hard to tell because the new law they knew and just like normal, like it was wearing like a suit and stuff, and came in the room. And new lock again. I have a window, like, but there's a window behind like where I sleep, behind my head where I sleep, and it comes and just stares out my window, and it's just like staring, and that's when I'm laying there going like, because I'm like, what the heck, like it's not paying attention to me, and the thing is, its face had like no expression, and so that is scary to me because I can't predict what it's going to do. Like, what is its intent? Is it mad? Is it sad? Or like, why is it here? But it was just blank, like no emotion. And that is like, to me, that's so scary, not knowing like what it's capable of. So I'm here like going like, ah, while here like that. And I'm like, come on. And then
it was standing next to you?
Yeah, no, it was like, so I'm laying here on my bed, right?
Yeah.
And it was standing next to me because I like sleep right, like the window's right behind me. And it's just like looking out the window.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm like, oh my gosh. So I would say like 5'9", 5'10" around there. And then and then and then it like did the Asian squat, right? Because I'm laying in my bed and it like did the Asian squat. My bed doesn't have a frame. So yeah, I'm like right in the ground. And he like Asian squat and like looked at me. And then I could tell that Tudano and then and then looked at me and then hai mong kia go hai go tiam. Lo to talk có And this is when I was like, oh shit, what did I get myself into? Like, and this meant I just kind of really started like, this is like year 2, year 3 of being a shaman. Like, like you do like you're like as a shaman, we don't face a lot of like, like people think we fight a lot of ghosts, but we really don't. like in a year, I'll probably do like one or two ceremonies where I actually like deal with like spirits and entities, like evil spirits and stuff. But so this was still really new to me. Probably like my second or third time that like I would have to deal with from someone else, like not my own experiences, but like someone who was doing that. So then the ghost is like, yeah, so like, you know, you're like, you want to help them, but can you get through me? And I'm here like, shit, like, thầu nó của tôi chỉ của chạy chỗ tôi ra chỉ của nhân dân chạy gì như là của tim ho. So I closed my eyes and I was like, closed my eyes so tightly because I was so scared and I could still like feel it and hear it. And then at that moment I was like, yo, I'm a shaman, dude. Like I can fight this off easily. Like I'm a shaman. Come on, Billy. So then after that, I was like, open my eyes. I'm like, oh, I'm not gonna give up. I was so scared as heck, but then I was trying my best to say a chant like John Yao. And I was like, Haga, like trying to finally, like, you know, typical we learned from Onang, like I was like, just do something, but I could not open my mouth and I couldn't talk. But what I can move, the little muscles that I could move in my face was my lips, and even though I couldn't open my mouth, there's one thing I could do, and that was like that. So I went, and then that gave me, for some reason I felt like, oh, what the and so I was like, and then very like looked at me very weird, and then like I think it was kind of surprised that I was like kind of like breaking out pretty well, and then it like just I didn't say hi to me, and it just kind of like went and it just like disappeared. Like it didn't go through my door again. It just like near to my door and it like just disappeared. And then I got up and I was like, oh, okay, like I'm good. And then I was pretty scared, so then I went to my altar and like and doing all that protection stuff that all shamans do, and I'm like barely experienced, but I'm here like okay. And then the next day you had some Hmong people come over. And then I was like, oh, you know, like, what do y'all need and everything? And like a lot of Hmong people come over all the time. So they're like, yeah, we're having a spirit problem. One of our bé tù sáng dê là bé tù tú na nửa mù yo ha rong dê nửa mù trâu tù u tù no, and he's been experiencing this for that person is experiencing this for like months now, and bitch baka uli na so good yeah. Oh, okay. But yeah, let me, because then rồi đâu chỉ tôi and so then của thế nữa tiền này thì nữa tôi khai này tiền trong trả like, yeah, he told us like what it looks like, but you know, bé chỉ bông chân, cause bé chỉ bỏ thế na, and I was like, they didn't tell me the description yet, so I'm like, is it nữ dòng như nó vậy hả? It wears a suit, and it's like I would say like late 20s Hmong man around there, and they're like, whoa, I got a body trả, có thứ sai đó. I'm like, and so it was a good laugh, and like, you know, like a lot of times though now, like that was my first lesson of learning that like like be very careful, because even though you don't know or ask for help, whatever like is attached to them sometimes knows already, and like you like come test you out before you even come test the waters before you even get a chance to like sample like what's gonna happen. And so like, yeah, I learned a lot with that. I learned a lot with like knowing how to be prepared for what's coming. And so now like fast forward like 9 years later, it's been 10 years for me. And it's not as scary anymore. I do still get scared, but I think the experience has really showed. And yeah, it's not as bad anymore.
Yeah. How are you? So you went on with the process and were able to like battle it out then?
Yeah. So then like afterwards, so then I would actually go onang. Like the onang wasn't that hard. The onang was, to me, was just ít thanh năng lại có một thanh năng limon người ta có một quả đá lô là có một năng tủ sa đó, tủ sa and all that stuff. Yeah, it was typical, and it wasn't like extremely difficult, I would say. Some cases có một mà để bé onang là cụ chỉ bảo cho lực tủ cha chịu onang li chảo. That's our like bé cho năng how we do shamanism. Bé một quả đá, when we like go get rid of like ghosts and stuff, like we drink blood, like blood and all that stuff. And this one I didn't have to do that, thank God. But I completed the ceremony, and I was pretty scared that like I would finish the ceremony and that night would get sat on, but everything was well. And it was my first experiencing where like you, and then because like you, so every time like I feel like someone's gonna talk over something that's like involving like a situation like this, I always make sure that like I'm prepared beforehand and everything. But yeah, I finished the ceremony and it was all good until this day. I haven't gotten a call back from them, and the one got, yeah, you know, 各种写字.
You kind of mentioned "gora." What is that?
Yeah, so gora is the goal is to get rid of, so we can use go on anything in any like language. In Hmong language, you could go in just like a sentence like, oh, and stuff like that. But gora is like the very typical term for like getting rid of like ghosts during a ceremony. But like for a certain case, like or like there's like a strong ghost attached to to be able to like get rid of it. But Gora is like the more universal term in which people get, because Dosha changes in so many ways. For example, this might get a little hard to understand without any background context, but like there's like many kinds of spirits, like Bansong and all this stuff, or like Daja, or you have like sleep paralysis spirits, and like Dosha will change depending on which spirits you're dealing with. Yeah. So going on with that, I think in the Hmong culture, like spirits and paranormal things is such a big thing to hear about. And growing up being Hmong, we're so used to like paranormal, not used to, but like we know so much about it. Like in our childhood, it's in our folklores that we hear, stories that our grandparents tell us and everything. And we grow up with it being a norm, spirituality is a norm with us. And like one story that comes to mind right now, I remember like my grandma telling my maternal grandma, and I thought this was a cute story. And like having no parents too, like I low-key relate to that. When my grandma was young, my great grandma, she passed away young. So my grandma, my Nietai was mi at a very young age, and mi and all the stuff, and all that stuff. So she dealt with a lot of that. And a story that she told me was that her stepmom always took her to the garden and everything, and she never got to like do anything with others. And at this time, my grandma was like what 6-7 years old at the garden alone, like like they're like you walk like 3-4 hours just to get there, and she spent nights and days by herself finding her own food and everything. And that's on ye. But then my grandma told me that when she was still young though, every night every night my grandma would and the door would always, every night her mom would always come open the door and then come and lay down with my grandma and and when my grandma told me the story, I personally was like, I was personally asking that, like, grandma, aren't you scared? Like that sounds so scary. And like my grandma's like, my mom I would never like face to look at her. Like she would spoon my grandma. But my grandma said, but I knew with my mom, because when she would hug me, my mom would talk to me, and my grandma would reach out and go nu đại tia na, nu đại tia like my grandma could feel the bandao, and she could grab it, and she could feel the skin. But like when it's not warm anymore. It's like cold. It's not like cold, but it's like, no, it's not producing heat. But she could feel all the clothes and everything. And her mom would always tell her like, "Boo, because my grandma didn't try to, especially my grandma's really scared of tigers at that time. So my grandma didn't try, and this is in blood day and stuff. So my grandma really appreciated that, because when and my grandma actually told me this story because I told her the first sleep paralysis story that I told. I told her the experiences I was going through at that time. And she told me this story. Then my grandma was like, I think you're gonna be a shaman. So this was one of the first stories that like my grandma told me where like it didn't help me in my situation. Like I actually got more scared. I'm like, so you're telling me that like there's some dead people can come do that too? Because one experience isn't as close to that. Like you're feeling them and everything. My grandma's like, why are you scared? You're so tight, but my grandma's saying that, but when she experienced love, she calls me now. So yeah. So going to that, like I think it's like all these great things and stories we've heard, and like even though within this podcast, like I don't want to talk a lot about spiritual stuff, I think it's important to know and talk about, since a lot of things we do is always related to like ghost stories and supernatural things, superstitions and everything. So yeah.
So with going through all your experiences and stuff, how do you think, or how do you feel now versus when you first started then?
I would say I feel a lot more confident with myself. Like I still get scared, honestly. Like the fear hasn't changed. Like the fear is still there. And note that I'm not like a medium or psychic. Like I don't see ghosts all the time. I only see or sense them here and there. I'm not a big fan of that, anyways, but I think comparing to me 10 years later, having been a shaman for 10 years now, being like, being into seafood, like, and like my students are all old. They're all like late 30s, 40s, 50s. It's kind of weird. But yeah, it's kind of weird. But so now I think because of the experiences I've gone through, like, I faced a lot of things that many times. I feel a lot more confident with myself. But I still wouldn't consider myself an expert when it comes to these kind of ceremonies because it's constantly changing. Like, for example, you can be in the Hmong culture, many different kinds of spirits. You have like water spirits, or like we call like we have like and like these are a lot of things most of y'all have not heard about. And I think in another podcast, I'll break it down, like the classifications of spirits within the Hmong culture at another time. But there's so many that we have to deal with and that you have to become an expert at. So many things you have to face along the way and everything. So for me now, I think I've become much, I wouldn't say stronger, but more strategic with like how I present, like how I would face on a ceremony. Like when I first started, I was very bold and like first thing is in Mukorati, I just take out the sword and try to overwhelm. But like over the years, I found that to be so very unsuccessful and not consistent with like the quality. Like many times like back then I'd just be like, yeah, I'm just gonna bulldog and front them up and everything, and it wasn't. It would help for us only like a couple of days, and it would not. For the long run, it wouldn't benefit the people I was helping. So I really had to take a step back and really reassess because a lot of a lot of steps and within the ceremony. I had to really learn from my master about like how would you do this in a very more professional and presentable way. And so then I learned a lot about that and like different things and learning different chants and all this stuff, and not just from my master, learning from a lot of other like wise shamans and everything too. So yeah, I would say that's where I am now. Still doing, I say once a year, like I said, still doing these ceremonies, still running around, throwing hands with ghosts on weekends, but not all the time. Not all the time anymore. And I try not to do too much anymore too, just because a lot of times it's tiring. Like I learned to not let it drain me a lot, as I would say. Like when you're constantly dealing with ceremonies in which like I would always be down to do it, but after a while it takes a toll on you. Like like a lot of the negative energy rubs off on you, or when sometimes when you work with someone, especially a young folk, I like to like, if let's say you have something attached onto you and I can't get to you right away, or let's say we plan a ceremony for like 2 months later, or maybe in a month. The thing is, within that time frame, you're still going to be experiencing very traumatic things. So I like to like work with them and like, hey, give me a call anytime you need, or when you're experiencing, just let me know. I'll try to help you in any ways. And I even try to teach them. There's a lot of chance you can teach someone who's not a shaman. They can protect themselves. But I think it gets tiring when it's like 4 a.m, right? And you got class next day. You got to work in like 8 a.m. and stuff. You got 8 a.m. class or something. I don't know. And it's tiring having to like, when they call you and you have to get up and like, as I do love helping, I do, but when you're working with like 3-4 people at one time, and in a night you get 3-4 phone calls just because they're experiencing something or going through sleep paralysis or something happened with their family, they're just not feeling well, and it takes a big toll on you, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, I would say. Like you lâu mộng xứ lò you tu chỉ tao san họ xa trừ lò you drink tao một lò xa, and you don't want to smell the smoke yet, and 4 a.m, I wish my house wouldn't have to be so smoky, but you gotta do what you gotta do, you gotta help them, and it takes a toll. So I have personally taken a step away from that. I still help the students, but not as rigorous as I used to. I don't invest myself as much, just because I've learned that leave a bit of yourself for you. I put in as much as I can into my work, but in the end, I still need something for me. And I was doing that so much where like my grades were going down in school, and this was like what, freshman, sophomore year, and I failed a class, and I usually don't fail classes, and I was really mad because it was a level 100 class, and like I failed it because I had no time to do homework, or then that was my 8 a.m. Psych 101, Psych 100 actually, Psych 100, 8 a.m. Psych 100, Hibber Hall, and I would never get sleep because if you wake me up 4 in the morning, I can't fall back asleep. I'll stay up because it's not like hookah and like they call you and you just talk for a bit and you hang the phone. Like they'll call you and you gotta go and light up your altar, set everything up, like keep on hmong lo, toe day lo, and do all that stuff. And they call you and then maybe an hour later, like come on, topu, huh? And you're already like wide awake by that time. And a lot of times it's like one calls me early, and sometimes it's just one call a night, or some nights it's 4 or multiple calls, meaning they call you more than once. They experience something at like 1 a.m. They call you back at 4 a.m. because they re-experience something.
Yeah.
And that took a big toll out of me. So relating back to like how does it feel now and then? I think now like with the king more, reserve myself a lot. So I don't burn out, like I don't want to burn out to the point where I don't want to help people anymore. It's I mean, it's not like we have much of a choice, but like I want to enjoy what I do, or at least take pride in it and not just do it because I'm doing it to do it. Like, yeah. Got a little deep there. Oops.
No, that's awesome, because I think it just shows like how human you are. It's just like, yes, you're a student as well, and you need to, do X, Y, and Z, like take care of your mental health as well.
Yeah. I think like it's funny when we talk about like ghosts and spirits, like even you Pachi, like many times y'all will ask me to hang out, and I'll like zone out. I tend to zone out a lot. And I zone out and like friends would be like, go watch it. I'm like, no, I'm thinking of my day. Or like my friends especially. And I think one fun thing of having been a shaman is that, and a shaman in college, every time my friends or anyone like, in at the time, like in HSA or Hmong Student Association, or anyone who was like a close friend of me on campus, my college experience, like when they get a new apartment or a new house, I'm one of the first person who always gets to see it because in fall, especially in fall semester, in like August and like right before fall starts, my phone goes crazy for my friends. They go, hey Billy, obviously, and then they send that message. I look at it, I'm like, bet. They're gonna ask me to do something, and they're like, hey, I just got a new apartment. Can you come sweep it? And I'm like, so like all my friends, and even you put cheer, I sweep your house before, like, no, I haven't.
No, you haven't, because I didn't like know.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. We didn't become like close until after college.
We didn't like each other.
A lot of friends. I like from apartments to houses. Like I flipped them all. And like most times, you G, but sometimes I'm like, oh, thank God you called me. Hello, something. But most of my friends won't ask me to sleep unless they do experience something though. But like sophomore year, friends would ask me to sleep or like do stuff for them when they experienced stuff. And then junior year of college for me, people just started right when they got new housing apartments, they just started having me come right away because they're like, even if there's something or not, like just do it. So like we don't have to experience something. And so like I think I find that really fun just because I always get to see like people right when they get the first house, they're like, oh, have you gone there yet? I'm like, heck yeah, I was the first one there and everything. I think it's fun to get to know that. And then even like over the years with like, I don't know why, but like within our friends group here, there's a lot of paranormal shit that happens.
Like I don't go to Billy a lot for the stuff, but I go to him a lot I have weird dreams.
Dream interpretation, y'all don't even know.
Yeah. Like I don't even know either. It's so wild. Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's funny because like now I do a lot of like key flow. Like I tie strings on like friends a lot now. Like it's funny to see how a generation is shifting so much. Like we're not like going back to shamanism. The thing is, or like animism or like it's not like we're shifting back. It's always been a part of us. It's becoming more relevant in our lives, I think. Especially like as young adults, it's becoming more relevant when people experience things they can't explain, and like I forgot what I was gonna mention. Something about and like like over the years, like when I've gone from like sweeping people's houses to tying strings, and like even now like people on campus know I have onang for their families. Like I've met so much of my friends' families because I onang for them. Like they'll like, lo need some onang, and then my friends would be like, It's literally like networking. They refer me, which is it's not a good refer because sometimes I'm like, girl, I don't want to do this right now. Yeah, I've met so much of my friends' families, and I get to know them a lot on like another different level. So I think one thing like with spiritualism and ghost stories and stuff, I think I appreciated that because like over the years I gotten to share many experiences with people, whether those are good or bad, spiritually.
Mhm.
But it's been a ride in college with that. It has been.
Definitely. Yeah, it's been wild. Anything else you want to leave us on? Because I think we're
Running out of
yeah,
time.
running out of
Yeah.
time.
I don't know. I think I'm good with this one. Thanks to everyone for listening. I don't want to talk too much about like don't expect too much about like ghosts and
Mhm.
paranormal stories out of this blog. I'll probably talk about some here and there. But yeah, so thank you to everyone for listening. It's been a great time for hanging out with me and Pachia and I. Remember to like, follow, and share our page, our blog, and you can find this podcast on any streaming places that you listen to your podcasts because this is an official one. So thanks everyone for staying tuned and listening. And if you listen to the whole thing, thank you so much. I know I could talk a lot, so
Yeah, thank you. Bye, everyone.
all right, bye everyone.